This is Point Blank on Eyewitness News. My name is Umaru, Sanda. Amadu. Let me say Point Blank is proudly sponsored by Kivo Pepe Moko Shoe. Just say Meko, that's I didn't know Moko Shoe. Okay, Moko Hot Pepper. Kivo Pepe is the brand you should look for when you go to the market to prepare your stews, your soups. Moko Shoe. Kivo Pepe. And my guest tonight on this hot edition of Point Blank, he wants to be vice president of the republic. He's using a route that is not a popular one that you may know about. It's neither the elephant's route nor the umbrella's route. He's using the butterfly, a very fragile animal. Growing up as a child, we touched feathers or wings of butterflies and they become immobile. So how is he going to do that? Kwame Owusu Danso, aka KOD, lawyer, is my guest on Point Blank. You're welcome.
Umaru, thank you very kindly.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm well. I'm doing well. Just tired.
You're tired already?
I mean, yeah, the roads are terrible.
Yeah.
So obviously,
we want us to pay you for 4 years and in fact for life. So you have to be tired first.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a proverb that says umbrea unya or something like that. I didn't want to use that word. But how is it going?
Well, it's been absolutely phenomenal.
Okay.
Just that, I did not expect to experience the kind of challenges that people have, particularly within the rural communities.
3 months ago, did you think or know or imagine that you would be a running mate to a presidential candidate in a very serious election and as a possibility?
Never.
You didn't think so?
Never crossed my mind.
Who are you? Who is Kwame Owusu Danso?
Well, I'm a lawyer, first of all. Once upon a time, an entertainer.
Okay, what kind of entertainment?
I was a musician.
Which for those who for those who don't know, we want to.
Well, so between 2008 and 2012, I was a hip life musician.
Okay.
I did the popular song called Golo Golo, featuring Tiny. This was after we won the Nescafe African Revelations. And so, that was the first song.
What was the stage name that you used?
Echo.
ECHO,
Echo, yeah.
So, Ngolo Golo.
Wale. So, I've done everything that a young man, growing up in a very humble home would do. Once upon a time, I was a mate.
A trotro mate?
In Abra, in the central region. I was a footballer when I was living in Asante Mampong. Of course, a studio rat. I've done all of that. Journalist, lawyer, youth advocate, and
where did you practice your journalism?
In terms of the
media houses,
Pan African Television.
Okay, so that's where you. That's what.
So I mean, I did X Live on TV3. I hosted the morning show on Capital TV. I hosted The Profiler on Hits FM.
Okay,
and then I did Pan African Television's morning show, but also a corporate person because I worked with Airtel for 2 years, and currently the general manager, corporate affairs and legal, Trasaco Group. Yes. So before you became a lawyer and a journalist, you must have gone to a secondary school, basic school. Where did you grow up? Where did you school? I grew up partly in Asante Mampong.
Is that where you are from, or you just happen to be there?
Because my dad was a police officer. We're transferred.
You were moving from?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So I grew up in Asante Mampong. That's where I started.
But that's where he was posted. Where's your hometown?
Yes, I'm from Akabuem in Oti region.
Oh, okay.
And then, so my dad is
from... So you're a Guan?
Yes, my dad is from Oti. My mom is from Elmina.
Okay.
So that's where I'm from. But I grew up in Asante Mampong, and then came to Achim.
So which basic school did you go to?
In Asante Mampong, I attended Senya International School, and then went to Mamtek Primary Junior Secondary School, and then we were transferred. So I continued in Achimasafo Methodist Junior Secondary School, and then I attended Achimasafo Secondary School.
That's where you finished?
Yes.
And went to which university?
K University from there.
So you went to K University,
yes.
Studied what?
Sociology.
Yes. And after that, what did you do?
After
did you do other degrees?
No. So after that, I did music. I went straight into music. So you went straight into music.
Is it something that you wanted to do from childhood, or just...
I had the passion for it, particularly because in Achimasaf we had like a group, and I thought that I had a talent, so I could harness that talent. So that is what I wanted to do right after university, especially also because it was difficult getting a job after university. So I decided to just tap into my talent.
I see.
And then,
Why did you kill the music career, or the career died on its own?
Both.
You were not able to produce another hit song after that one.
You know how difficult it is to produce a hit song, because then what you think may be a hit song may not necessarily resonate with the people. Exactly. So after Golo Golo, we did another song with Iwan called Shokoli. It was also a banger, but then we could not keep up, because then it was very difficult. You know, we produced quite some good songs, but people just didn't feel the vibe. And so yeah, I had to.
So you hung your microphone.
I had to, and it was also very difficult because the money that we made when we released Golo Golo and Shokoli, I had to reinvest the money into videos and studios and things like that, and it was becoming increasingly very difficult for us to survive. So I had to just, hang my boots and then pick up the law.
Many years ago, Yoweri Museveni of Uganda was going into an election, and he produced a song, and he was being played around. I don't know, if you become vice president, would you go back to the studio, and if the inspiration comes, and drop us a banger?
Yeah, music is such a beautiful thing, and I feel like we've not tapped into that space very well as a nation. And so if I can spearhead something that will generate that desire in people to want to pursue that, why not? I should be the forerunner.
But as a person, do you see yourself going back to the studio again?
It will be interesting to record with Shatawale and Sarkodie and Stoneboy.
I see. Yeah. But right now, there are no lyrics come the head inside.
Charlie, right now, there.
Yeah, more things to worry. You were on Pan-African TV.
Yes, sir.
They say that you are in-law to the owner. Yes, is that true?
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, Chris Price, you're in-law.
Yes,
oh, nice. Yes. He's a socialist.
Yes, he is.
Now, have you always been NPP?
I have not been NPP. I think I've been more of a Ghanaian than just.
Have you ever had a party card?
No, never.
So, did you sympathize with any of the two major parties?
I mean, as a socialist, I sympathized with the masses, the working class.
But which of the parties appealed to you more?
I mean, a party that obviously would want to address the fundamental issues confronting the people is the party that I will identify with. Okay. It doesn't matter which political party.
Let me bring the question. Between NPP and NDC.
Between NPP and NDC.
In the past 16 years or 20 years or even 30 years, they've been the two relevant parties.
Yeah. You
would have to identify with either of them. Yeah. Did you identify openly with any of them?
I think that it is not something that is desired. I don't believe that you must necessarily follow any political party.
The man you are representing, the man you are running with, he has represented the NPP for decades.
Yeah.
So don't be shy.
You may what
Alan Chamantin,
of course,
yes. He's been NPP until he left a few months ago. Yeah. So I wanted to just know whether you have been NDC or NPP.
No, I've not been NDC. I've not been NPP.
And you've not been NPP.
Yes, I've tried to be very neutral. I've tried to be very Ghanaian. I've tried to pursue things that will benefit, the Ghanaian people. That's those who know me would know that if NDC does good things, I would say it. If NPP does good things, I'll say it. I don't.
The reason I ask is because with Pan-African TV, working with Chrissy Pratt, you are most likely doing socialist things and maybe to an extent some NDC politics. And then now you are running mate for Alan, who is not traditionally an NDC or socialist background person. How are you marrying that? Yeah,
I think that with respect, it would be erroneous to say that we're doing NDC things at Pan-African television.
I said to an extent. I didn't say you. I said socialist.
No, to that extent, it's even questionable. I know the question you're asking.
I have withdrawn.
Well, you're smart enough. I know the question you're asking. But then again, it points to the fact that we are pushing an agenda that should ultimately benefit the people. And that is why I always say this, that because NPP is in government at this material moment, and they've been in power for like 8 years. And within that period, that is when Pan-African Television started. Obviously, they are the government in power, and so when they do things, we should be able to question them for the policies and for the execution of those policies and the sustainability of those policies. And to the extent that it offends them, does not necessarily mean that we cannot do that because it offends them. Once it serves the interest of the people, that is what I believe we should
do. How did you become Alan's running mate? Did he call you? Did he email you? Did he just meet you? What did he come to your house? What happened?
So
were you part of the movement for change before your nomination?
Well, I can say that in a way, I identified and still identify with what they stand for now. But in terms of how he contacted me, so he has a program on Pan-African Television called Alan Speaks.
Okay. Essentially explaining his policies to the Ghanaian people. And
well, I was contacted by one of his people to host it for him, and so when I got the opportunity to host it, then I got deeper into the Great Transformational Plan, and I thought that, well, this is good. It resonates with me, and I think that it is something that if we are able to push, it will best serve the interests of the people. So when I demonstrated that, then subsequently, I think he also fell in love with me because of the way I was asking my questions and the way I was into the policy. So 48 hours to filing, his document. Then on set, he said, when we go for break, I'll tell you something. I said, okay. So we went for that break, and then he said, you are my running mate.
Wow.
And so he just simply said, tell your wife. Okay, no, wait, I'll tell your wife myself.
Wow.
So it's, I can say, maybe spontaneous. I don't know. I don't know what was running through his mind, what was going on in his mind. I just think that maybe he just thought that, are aligned to what he stands for and his desires.
Did you hesitate in saying, yes, I do?
I told him I was going to get back to him because I needed to speak to a few people. In as much as my decision is mine, I feel that my decision should not affect other people who are close to me. So I needed to respect that nexus that I have with my father-in-law, for instance, with my wife, with some of my bosses, and so I had to consult them before arriving at that conclusion. And
you decided and announced to him that you are happy to do it?
Yes.
What do you think you are going to do with Alan? What is your plan? Do you really, genuinely, seriously, and you are a lawyer, if they bring you a case, you can assess your chances of winning. Do you seriously think your ticket is going to win the election?
Absolutely. I have very little doubt in my mind.
Really?
And I'll give you I will tell you why. If you look at the political trajectory of this country, for the past 32 years, we have had the existence of the duopoly, and it has become more like an entrenched political system. That entrenched political system ought to be changed. We have to do something about it. It is precisely the reason why we are experiencing a lot of violence in our elections because of the winner-takes-all syndrome and all of that, because of people's marriage to their political ideology. I mean, I often say that, ideologies are not necessarily to be followed to death. If, for instance, you get to a point where you believe that the ideology departs from what is reasonable, then you must adjust and ensure that you do things that will find expression in that reality that you find yourself in. And so, clearly, I believe that Honorable Alan Kojo Shemantin is the one person who will break that political duopoly, who will break that jinx. And look, I've been to the Oti region, I've been to the Central region, and the message is very loud. People are tired of the duopoly. I'm telling you this for a fact, that people have had enough of 16 years of MPP, 16 years of NDC, the same rhetorics. It's as though we are just recycling, incompetence or recycling unfulfilled promises.
Okay. But so you do know that the man you work with has been a very, very significant part of this duopoly.
Yeah.
So whatever is wrong with this duopoly, he was an architect of that. He served for 8 years in Kufuor's government, 7 years in Akufo-Addo's government out of the last 30 years. 16 years he's been in public office. So if the public space is a mess, if the governance system is a mess, he, who almost became flag bearer 2008 and 2012 later on, should take the blame. So he cannot be the savior of a mess he created.
Yeah, well, so I can say that he didn't create any mess, and I'll explain
he was
why.
part of the
no,
mess.
He
was part of the creators of the what you call the mess.
Yeah, there's collective responsibility, there's individual accountability. I mean, he was only asked to head a particular department,
not just a mere department.
Trade,
an important department like trade. That trade is the fulcrum around which our economy evolves.
Yeah, but did he excel?
If he excelled, wouldn't be where we are.
Yeah, but of course, I mean, his department may have excelled, but collectively, if you look at, for instance, decisions that ought to be taken by government in ensuring that we have an economy that is robust, that is able to withstand the fortitude of any unforeseeable pressures, right? He couldn't have been the one to take those decisions. We practice an executive system of governance. Ultimately, the buck stops with the president. So if you take a decision, that decision which you think ultimately may address some fundamental issues, and the president is deaf-toned to it. What can you do? You can only suggest if the president doesn't take your decision. But I mean, beyond that is even the fact that he did not have the wand in his hand to be able to deliver, extensively the things that he wanted to deliver. And I'll cite you an example within this administration.
Is he not sounding like the vice president, whom he criticized for saying that he was just a mate?
Yeah, but the vice president is a pivotal part in this administration.
Just as a trade minister.
No. I mean, the vice president. If in the absence of the president, the vice president is there. In the absence of the vice president, the trade minister is not there. So it tells you the level of impact that all of these people have relative to their offices, right? And so you cannot arrogate some powers to him that which he doesn't have, and that is why I can confidently say, look, and in as much as I agree with you to a very minimal extent, Kwame Nkrumah faced a similar challenge. I mean, when he joined the UGCC, they had a particular direction. He felt that that direction was not a proper direction. It didn't find expression in the aspirations of the people at the time. He needed to move away from that, form CPP, and gain independence for us. And that, for me, is symptomatic of what has transpired within, this whole.
There appears to be an unwritten rule where if you are a flag bearer from the north, you choose a running mate from the south, and vice versa. You are from the south. Your flag bearer is also from the south. Have you considered these things? Yeah.
Well, I think that we must get to a point where people will be chosen on the basis of competence, not on the basis of regionalism or tribalism or ethnicism.
Our constitution has said that we should go national, regional. Yeah. So I'm not sure you're smarter than the constitution as a movement.
Yeah, but the constitution was written by people, and you would agree with me that there are some provisions in the constitution which ought to be changed.
The constitution was adopted by the population.
I agree with you. But what I'm saying is that if you get to societies evolve, so if, I mean, there's a dialectical movement, and you get to a point where, the evolution of society has gotten to the point where we must review certain provisions in the constitution.
Where we must have south tickets, which would go to the detriment of the north. So, which means that you don't mind one day that we should have. I mean, hold on a second. Okay, so, if Akufo-Addo had chosen all his ministers from the eastern region because that's where he found competence, would you say it is a fair representation of the
if they delivered? Yes. If, for instance, no other region was deprived of the very basic things that they needed, I wouldn't have a problem with it at all.
Interesting.
At all. Honestly, and I'm being very honest with you, that we must get to a point where we will look beyond the peripheries of regionalism and look at the Ghana agenda. And I think that increasingly we are getting to a point where we are creating some division within the country, particularly because of this strict adherence to some provisions in the constitution, which ostensibly is supposed to further advance the development of this country, but which in reality is not.
Talk to me about the GTP, Northern Tuma, the Great Transformation Plan that you have. Talk to me briefly about it for those who may not know what it entails.
Yes, sir. So the GTP essentially is to address the negatives we have in our political dispensation, particularly because it has become clear to all of us that the duopoly that we have been experiencing for the past 32 years have not been able to deliver fully, to the good people of Ghana. And so we are looking at dealing with specific things. Now, if you look at the GTP, we have 6 main clusters, and under the clusters, we have several prescriptions underneath them. So we're looking at governance, for instance. So if we're looking at the issue of governance, the first thing that we are going to deal with is corruption. And I'm sure you are very much aware that, as a country, we lose so much to corruption, and yet somehow we are unable to address the issue of corruption. Now, there are 2 fundamental issues here. One, our inability to have good leadership and proper political will to address the issue of corruption. And 2, the fact that the institutions that we have, which are supposed to deal with the issue of corruption, have failed woefully, primarily because they are an offshoot of the executive. Now, if I say that, I'm saying this to mean that, for instance, if you look at the office of the Special Prosecutor that was set up for the purposes of dealing with these matters, the Office of the Special Prosecutor, you are well aware, is not independent per se, because it derives its authority from that of the Attorney General, which authority flows directly from Article 88 of the Constitution. So it cannot be independent per se. What we are seeking to do, or our prescription, is that we're going to have a second chamber of parliament, which will mean some constitutional reforms. That conversation we can have later. But then we have a second chamber of parliament that will specifically deal with the appointment of specific independent state institutions. So I'll give you an example. The Electoral Commission, for instance, should not be appointed by the president. The IGP should not be appointed by the president. Who
should appoint them?
So we are saying that we're going to create a second chamber of parliament, which will be an amalgamation of well-meaning, Ghanaians. So people who have excelled in their varied fields. So clergy, imams, your boss, for instance, father-in-law, the likes of my father-in-law, people who know what it takes to appreciate the exigencies of now and take decisions that will benefit the good people of Ghana are the ones who are going to appoint those people. And they will vet them, and if they pass, why not? We'll give them the opportunity to so do.
What does the Movement for Change think of the current state of the free senior high school? And what will you do about it? Yes, sir.
So we think it's a good policy, all right? The policy idea or the ideation is brilliant. The execution and the sustainability bit are the two critical issues that we feel were not really looked at properly. Because we should have, looked at the number of, for instance, schools that we have, or buildings that we have, or infrastructure that we have relative to the implementation, and then how to sustain that, where we're going to get money to finance that. Now, once we're given the opportunity, we will build on what is already in existence. We're not going to cancel it. We're not going to touch it. We're just going to build on that. It means that we have to build more schools. It means that we need to look for financing to be able to invest in that. We need to look at our curriculum. We need to look at making sure that teachers are comfortable. And so the idea is also even to go beyond SHS to also look at basic education. Okay. That the formative years of a child's brain is as important as the other years. Okay. So we are going to make sure that it's sort of like a transition from one to B, but we are going to invest hugely in infrastructure and curriculum and support for teachers.
Do you believe in polls?
We do believe in polls to the extent that the polls are legitimate.
I see. Musa Dankwa's latest polls suggest that Cheddar has beaten you again in the race.
When was
Cheddar, it came this morning.
Oh, okay.
Now, Cheddar is a new face in all intents and purposes of our national politics. For your boss, whom you highly celebrate and believe to be the next president in waiting, he should not be beaten by a new entrant like Cheddar.
Do you believe in shaping public perception in politics?
Continue.
You do. Right. So, I mean, all of these things in the final analysis comes to perception. When you go to the grounds, when you go to the communities, when you go to the villages, when you engage with the market women, they know Alan Chamartin even more than Dr. Baumia.
But the way to test it is through
but the polls. What's the sample size? Where was the poll conducted?
So you don't.
I don't take those things hook, line, and sinker.
Which poll do you trust in this country?
Well, I trust the polls of the people, by a majority of the people.
That's election.
So, of course, that would be the final.
But you said you trust polling.
No, I said to the extent that it is legitimate.
So you don't think this is legitimate?
Well, I think that the conduct
because you chop 4 for.
No, it's not about that. In the final analysis, I think that December 7th will determine whether. Look, there's a radio station in the Ashanti region that conducted its poll as well. And if you look at the number of votes that the people had, in fact, Alan Chamartin beat Baumia in Kumasi. So that's another. But what I'm saying is that in the final analysis, the ultimate deciders of who ultimately will lead them is the people. Okay. And so, we're waiting for December 7th.
We have to go. A few things.
Yes, sir.
When did you turn 40?
I turned 40 this year, March.
Yeah. Okay, so you are qualified to run as president. A gossip has sent me a message.
Yeah.
He says your guest nearly contested the NDC primaries for Commander Edna Egwafu Ebrim, KEA. Please ask him.
Yeah, as an independent candidate.
No, it depends at NDC.
No. I never declared to contest on a ticket of the NDC.
For KE?
Never. As a matter of fact, what I did was I organized health screening for my people in Elmina. I built shirts for the fisher folk in Elmina, and they approached me that they were tired of the duopoly. And
this was before 2020?
This was before 2020
So
elections.
you tried to contest as an independent?
Yeah, absolutely.
In KE?
And I think that we should encourage a lot more.
But you didn't do it?
No, I didn't do it. Then I got Makola.
So you went to law school. You chose the law school over the people?
No,
I'm telling you.
I needed to know. No. No. They actually told me that, I mean, looking at where we are now, it is better to go and acquire some knowledge so that I can help the constituency.
KOD, Kwame, Owusu, Danso, Esquire, running mate.
By the way, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. It's not, you've done well.
Let's leave it there. Thank you so much. So that's Alan Kojo Chamante's running mate in the upcoming election. They are filed. They've been accepted by the Electoral Commission, and they are on the ballot. Forgive me again. What your ballot position?
Oh, number 13.
Number 13, yes.
Asieho. Don't ever forget. Umaru.
No. I shouldn't.
Asieho.
I just want
I'll bring you the advert.
Bring adverts. So
we'll do that.
Wish you all the best. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been Point Blank on Eyewitness News, brought to you by Kivo Pepe Moko Shu. My name is Umaru Sanda, Amadu. I did this with Akosia Otri. Production by Kwame Wilson and Beverly London, as well as Sami Wiafe. Technical support from Daniel Squashy. New media support from Umaru Owusu. We'll be back tomorrow at 17:30 GMT. Thank you for listening. It's a Monday, so I'm leaving you in the hands of Samuel Atamensa, who brings you Footprints.